Hey everyone, what's up? It's your old pal Fromark here once again, as always, and yeah, I wanted to go ahead and put out an announcement video that I've decided to leave the Let's Play genre for the time being. I would consider this an indefinite hiatus, although, I may never come back from this. Although, I don't know, I'm leaving the door open. I may come back and do like a one-off Let's Play at some point, and I may come back and do a couple other playthroughs or something. I'm not sure yet, it's undecided. But after doing this for 5 years, the 5-year anniversary of doing gameplay videos was just this past April. I think it was like April 5th, I want to say, at the time we're recording this. And I wanted to do like another half-hour commentary episode, bring that back from the dead, and it just didn't quite materialize. And whenever I switched jobs behind the scenes a few months ago, things became very difficult for me to continue recording video games and practicing gameplays, and it's a whole lot of skill and it takes a whole lot of time, and I just didn't have the time that I used to have anymore. I work 6 days a week now. I used to, at my previous job, I only worked 3 days a week, which gave me tons of extra time to be able to sit down and practice games, and then sit down and practice the commentary, and then record the commentary, and I just don't have that time anymore, folks. And that's just how it is sometimes. Life things, you know? But I am glad that I was able to do this for 5 years and that it ended up becoming like a little progression arc for me, because whenever I first started recording these back in 2021, I didn't have quite the equipment I was hoping to have at the time, and I just leaped all in with a crappy microphone and recorded some stuff directly off my phone. And I was impressed enough, and people were impressed enough, so I just kept going from there. Eventually, I got better microphones and better equipment. And this is. So, doing Let's Plays and video game content on the channel is something I'd been wanting to do for well over a decade. This is something that kind of harkens back to the first era of the Fromark channel, the Beggleman83223 days. I had intended on doing video game reviews at that time, and there were a few botched attempts at recording some playthroughs, nothing that ever finalized. But all I could ever think back then was, man, I wish I could record playthroughs like my favorites, like the Brain Scratch Coms and the Clements and all those fellas and the Chugga Conroys. And I'm like, I think I could do that too if I had the right equipment. And the thing is about Let's Plays, they're definitely not as popular as they were back then. I feel like I definitely was quite a bit late to the party. Quite a bit late to the party. Definitely at least a decade late to the party. I mean, then you had the Game Grumps and the Markipliers and the PewDiePies, and Let's Plays just aren't quite as popular as they used to be, and then also live streams kind of broke out, and then you have Twitch and all that stuff, so people still consume gaming content. And man, if I could do live streams, I definitely would have. I did a couple of live playthroughs where I recorded and played it live. I think Donkey Kong Country 1 was one of those. And man, that's another one of those, speaking of the progression, thinking back to that playthrough, there were several early playthroughs where when I first got the capture card, when I got my first capture card, I couldn't figure out how to set the settings up in it properly. I couldn't get the aspect ratio right, or the cropping or whatever. So those early playthroughs are a little bit stretched. But I mean, all things considered, they still look pretty good. Maybe I can go back one day and remaster those and fix those stretches. But speaking of which, folks, none of those playthroughs are going anywhere. I don't plan on deleting any of those. I don't plan on deleting anything on this channel ever again. I learned that lesson after the Bagel Man stuff. I had a stalker years ago and I wasn't sure what to do with the channel. I didn't know I could privatize videos. And I was like, oh crap, I should probably just delete everything. But duh, I didn't have to even do that. But at least I still have one video left from that era. But I never did get the chance to do any gaming stuff in that first era. So whenever I finally got the tech to be able to do so, it was kind of like a dream come true. And so I kept it going for a few years. And I will admit there were plenty of times where I was just like, man, I just want to give this up because it's not going quite the way I want it to. I don't get the numbers I was thinking it was going to get. I mean, I still draw in some numbers, and it's not completely about that. But also at the same time, it just takes a lot of time and effort to be able to make even stuff like video game playthroughs. Some people will knock it and be like, oh no, that's easy work, and I'm sure it is. If that's easy work, I would sure hate to see what complicated YouTube work is. I mean, even stuff like YouTube poops, I've put a couple of those together, and that takes a lot of video editing, a lot of work to do. Video editing isn't quite as complicated with Let's Plays and commentaries, because, I mean, there aren't as many tracks, you're not splicing as much stuff, depending on what direction you're going to go. If it's largely unedited, though, it's definitely going to be a lot easier, and I mean, it was fairly easy for the most part. The only challenge was going back through and listening to everything and figuring out what needed to go where. But I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it. There were a lot of playthroughs, and I definitely recorded commentaries and playthroughs whenever I was motivated, whenever I felt like it. I didn't want to just churn out crap whenever I didn't feel like it. And that kind of brings me to another thing a little bit too, because there were a good chunk of those playthroughs I recorded when I was a little bit sloshed or under the influence of alcohol. And over the last month or so, that's something I've taken pretty seriously, is my physical health and my drinking problem. And I think it escalated a lot more than I was ever anticipating that it would over the last year or so. And there were times that it kind of got the best of me, torched friendships, and, yeah, just hurt my physical health and probably taken a few years off my life with all the drinking I've done. But I'm doing better, and I'm clean, and I am changing, and yeah, just wanted to point that out because, I mean, there were a lot of playthroughs that I recorded sloshed, I recorded drunk, because I felt like it made it easier for me to talk, it made it easier for me to just loosen up and have a good time, and that is still a challenge a little bit when it comes to that stuff, because I'm a very tense person and I struggle to relax at times, but I'm learning, I'm doing better, and I'm trying, and I'm gonna keep trying, and just because I'm done with the Let's Plays for the time being doesn't mean that I'm going anywhere, folks. I'm still gonna be doing videos over here on the channel, whether it be my vlogs / video journals, whether it be the forthcoming Digital Dust LP. Oh man, that's gonna be some good music for y'all. But yeah, this is pretty much the end of the road for the time being, at least with the gaming content. Maybe I could finally get into doing some reviews. I always wanted to do game reviews in my early days, because at the end of that Serial episode I mentioned something in the fade out text, something about I'm gonna do a game review, and I was gonna do a game review of a Sonic game, and I had a script ready to go, and for whatever reason, I never finished it. So, who knows? I love video games, and I love making videos over here on the channel. It gives me something to do sometimes, and it's been a fun expression and a fun passion of mine to just do, even if it doesn't get me as far as it does other people. But yeah, it's been a good 5 years, and it's been kind of a bumpy ride at times with these playthroughs. Because there were, like I said, plenty of times that I just kind of felt like throwing in the towel and giving up. And I kept this thing going a little bit longer than I had initially planned on it. But 5 years sounds like a pretty good run to me. 5 seasons, and like, where do you see yourself in 5 years and all that stuff. So, like, here we are 5 years later, and I'm gonna go ahead and just take a little break. Maybe I come back soon because, I mean, there's a lot of Sonic games that I want to play on the channel that I hadn't got around to yet. And that was something I was wanting to do more of. And I hadn't gotten to games like Sonic Adventure yet. I just finished up the classic era of Sonic. But who knows? Like I said, maybe down the road I'll do some more of the stuff. I just wanted to leave the door open. This isn't goodbye forever on Let's Plays. Still have all my capture equipment ready to go at any time. It just depends. Just depends on if I ever get time. But for now, the Sonic the Hedgehog The Lost Worlds playthrough will be my final playthrough, at least for the time being. And that was a fun one. That's the only playthrough I've been able to record since I switched jobs, and yeah, I feel like that was a pretty good little finale. I mean, it was Sonic, and I feel like that's a good place to end it for now. And speaking of which, I feel like that's a good place to end this video for now, and I appreciate you all tuning in for the past 5 years with that. I hope you'll stay tuned for whatever else I do on this channel in the meantime. And as always, folks, this is Fromark signing off, and I will see you all in whatever it is I decide to do next. We'll see you then.